getting down to this position, South Asia or India, this is where we stand. The 3.5% land, 25% of population, and one of the worst on SDI parameters. In India, we say 40% children, they are having stunted growth. People don't have access to nutrition. This is not now. This has been happening for a long time, that this problem has been going on. Once you have stunted growth, your cognitive capacity is impaired. Once you don't have high quality of cognitive capacity, naturally the quality of human resource goes down. And the biggest ingredient of national security or strength of any society is what? Physical, psychological health of people and their cognitive capacity. When we are talking about cognitive capacity, we are talking about nutrition, awareness, knowledge, not only to children, but to their mothers. Not only this nutrition, but if a mother who's pregnant and she is subjected to a lot of stress, there will be changes in part of her brain that will create kind of children, who will never be optimally healthy. So when we are talking about governance, it should also include very healthy social environment, which we are being denied. We are fighting a kind of civilizational war. A section of organized criminals and corrupt elements, etc., or global powers, for a variety of reasons, they are saying two things. At one level, of course, a section of our Islamic population is said it is your right to kill people, right to murder non-Muslims, right to do whatever, because this is jihad. This is a very dangerous concept. On other levels, we have some elements who are saying, oh, perfectly all right, as long as they get their cut in organized crime or brokers, etc., they are willing to go to any extent. And this is very dangerous for our civilization. Why are we here today? Because any society, when it gets enslaved, it is trampled upon, especially a civilization like ours, it must have had some flaws. That is why it has been trampled upon. It has distorted from those robust principles of governance that we are talking about. And once you are enslaved, what has happened? A large number of people who were upright people who stood up, they were wiped out. Then we, as I said, I mentioned the example of Mandodari, I mentioned the example of courtiers. So opportunism, self-survival, self-preservation, these things distort your values. So this is a reality that, we don't relate much with this thing. Today, saffronization we are talking about. I know hardcore people in various government establishments, they were benefiting and profiteering from previous regimes. They have suddenly become saffron because this is the best way to profit here. So something is wrong with our political system also. I'll get down to it. So social fractures, social fracture is there, social fissures are there, this divide is there, caste division is also there. It's not that the division is only with Islam. This division between our corporate sector has an agenda, a good number of them, by selling resources of this country, primary goods, they have enriched. By political patronage, they have enriched. A class of traders and brokers cannot, a society where traders and brokers and not innovators are leaders, what is going to happen? That society, some individuals may prosper for some time. And this is why I'm talking about civilizational security. Life of an individual, maybe 60, 70, 100 years. Life of a state, maybe a few hundred years. The life of a civilization may be running into millennia. So that is why our concept that, you are grateful to, indebted to your pithers, your ancestors, means what? They have given you this world, this society, and it is your responsibility to give it in the same way to your future generations. Now, people who are climate peace activists, they are talking about it. These values were there, but we distorted from those values. We had incompetent people at leadership level roles. We had intellectuals and thinkers who were enslaved to power. And this is what brought about their downfall. If Mahmud Ghaznavi attacked or Muhammad bin Qasim attacked, sorry, he's not to be blamed. You can't expect a kind of beastly, savage bunch of people to act in a civilized way. And you say, look, he's not acting in a civilized way. Sorry. This is where there's a difference between knowledge and information and wisdom. You should understand outside world the way it is. You should understand a threat before it comes. You should handle that threat before this threat becomes serious for you. Otherwise, if you don't do, you decline, you degenerate, you decay as a civilization. And that is why we said we have enormous progress, but we have huge amount of challenges also, far too daunting challenges also. We have to rediscover, change our mind. So this is there's very high tolerance to corruption. People say, I mentioned right in the beginning, he's not the only person. One of my bosses also said that, look, system can't change. One of the principal charges which I'm facing, and people did criminal forgery, to to frame me, was this: I'm a system breaker. Yes, I was driven by idealism. At one point of time, as a young person, I believed that some point of time, world will become better. Yes, it was very naive on my part also. I consider it my failure as well, because I did not understand world. But still, a society must value. It's not that every patriot has to die and we have to just do the business of garlanding that patriot. It has to be recognized, and there's no need for recognition. We don't worship individual, we worship attributes. Wherever a particular attribute is good for collective strength of a society and civilization, that has to be appreciated. So our challenges are these. I would once again note it down: after effects of long foreign occupation, vulnerability to human frailties, self-seeking instincts, which are universal in all human beings. I'm not saying that even when I mentioned about certain things, I've come across amazingly patriotic, altruistic, honest people in Islam, also adherents of Islam also, and there are all over the world. But yes, a variety of factors have brought this situation that Islamic faith has been used something to destabilize the world. But they also talked about egalitarianism. It has also many positive strengths, and that positive values can enrich and strengthen our civilization, Indian civilization. We also facing pressure of globalization. There are already contradictions in the capitalist democracy and capitalist economy also. Those are also indulging, generating some kind of pressure. We will discuss about it. So getting down to this, as I said, we have to assess future, how things are evolving, where do we stand? And on this basis, we discuss present, discuss how our thought process has been corrupted. We are trying to borrow a system from Britain, and we have subverted it a little bit. We have created a kind of dynastic democracy people talk about. There are a lot of one politician, one scam was noticed, but his children have formed a political party. And very often we get to believe, we are compelled to believe that democracy is a war among political parties. Some crumb has to be thrown on the masses, and governance and security of our civilization is a secondary matter. If for some political force it is convenient to support organized crime, it is convenient to support criminalized police and this thing, they will do it. So where is people? Where are people? Where is Western democracy that talks about, promote your interest? Everybody, we will give your interest. They are obsessed with freedom, because that society had a very long tradition of slavery. For slaves, freedom was very important. That freedom is a misplaced subject. Freedom cannot be obsolete. What are we talking about? Chinese are talking about harmony. Harmony is what? Confucian harmony? Whosoever is powerful, you must remain subservient to that powerful. If you fight against powerful, you will be killed and harmony will be disrupted. But our concept of Upanishadic harmony, Vedic harmony, that we say, it's not that, we are encashing it. Indians are champion at encashing everything. Patriotism is also become commodity for a large number of people. We are trying to encash without realizing how it has to be fought. And this is not possible for politicians to fight, not possible for bureaucrats to fight. But yes, somebody who thinks, does, create. And together people can fight. That is possible in my vision of Indocracy that you mentioned. I am talking about not sedition, I'm talking about competition, a limited, regulated competition where ideas can come up. So we need a new vision. Indocracy is not about going back to past. Indocracy is about moving forward, and moving forward with some of our values. And what is the new value, new vision of Indocracy? Though many people have stolen my vision, and now you'll find that Indocracy nobody was using. Large number of people are using and trying to encash it. Indians are champions in that, educated Indians also. Our education system creates clerks, and our social system creates brokers. So I hope we come out of this thing at some point of time. I hope a lot of hope in young people like you and your friends here. So this is about a mutually empowering equilibrium between individual and society. And that is not possible. We talked about, physical health, physical capacity, psychological health, isn't it? Cognitive capacity. Without this, individuals can't be healthy. So first, harmony or synergy within individual. Your health, your mind, these things have to be developed, and optimal conditions have to be created. Then we are talking about individual and society. somebody who has a potential to become an Einstein should not be forced to become a rickshaw or a drainage cleaner. There has to be dignity to everyone, so that whosoever, and dignity when I'm talking about, even if their brain is not developed, they are contributing. They have to. We have said that dignity is our fundamental right, but neither our judiciary nor our bureaucracy nor are this thing. Those who are not criminals, but many a times more sophisticated criminals, they find their place in higher echelons of society or state rather than prison. The lower end criminals go over there. So what I'm trying to say, that this dignity and individual, this thing we are talking about, we have to focus on that. Confucius also said building character virtues. Kautilya also said we have to focus on building these things, because unless and until you build high quality individuals with strength, with ethics, with integrity, your society is at risk. Then individual and society, we have said, and then society and nature. We are talking about climate peace now, but our concept of treating rivers as mother, mountains as this thing is what we have to live in harmony with this. So it's not that 72 virgins people are desperate. I don't know, the women will detest a place where whatever is that heaven they talk about. So compared to that, it was highly sophisticated civilization. But once you yourself become dishonest, once you yourself start deviating, you are bound to be trampled upon. And right now we are having argument. Okay, you are this. Most of the social media are trying to run down Islam. No, don't do that. Islam in its context, when it came from values of mountain gorillas and baboons, etc., in that context, it was a highly civilized kind of thing, extremely humanistic, but societies don't change straight away. As I mentioned, impact of genes and environment. It takes a long time to change. So some of the noblest teaching of Islam were hijacked by long-standing genetic and environmental factors of that region, and the entire world has paid a heavy price. So our vision of Indocracy is optimal harmony within an individual, in his physical capacity, in his psychological health, in his cognitive capacity, then individual and society, for which we need ethics, we need integrity, we need empathy, we need focus on developing upper brain or prefrontal cortex. Conditions have to be created, and nature. And once we try and pursue these three interdependent levels of harmony, societies, communities will progress and advance. But then there's another level of harmony I mentioned in the beginning also. Harmony between society and state. Even wars have to be fought. Wars cannot be avoided. But how smartly we fight a war. On war also, I have my own theory. I am being prevented from publishing. So anyway, these lectures and some write-ups are platforms where I have said 3-4 years earlier also, that a war has to be should be short, swift, and decisive. Even if the war is fought for a shorter duration, you have to prepare very well. You should be always prepared for a war. Bangladesh war, we succeeded comprehensively because then General Manik Shah, he took time, our forces prepared, we measured everything, and backed by intelligence. So Takshashila's instance also I mentioned. So every kind of wars cannot be avoided, but fight war, prepare for war. War has to be short, swift, decisive. Cost of a war, human or material, has to be as minimum as possible. War has to be fought not on your territory, but on territory of your adversary, a society and civilization which talks about Dharma Yudh, etc. Dharma Yudh has to be within India. War between Congress party and BJP and other political parties has to be Dharma Yudh. But war with China or war with Pakistan or war with third country cannot be Dharma Yudh. Objective of that war is only victory, short, swift, decisive, and war. We must avoid fighting wars on our territory. Whenever required, we must fight war in somebody else's territory. And that is why if Cholas went to Srivijaya, founded Srivijaya kingdom, or they went outside, they fought that war on another territory. You keep expanding. I wouldn't say on Islamic line, keep converting everyone to your faith, but keep expanding your zone or circle of security. You should always be surrounded by peaceful and other states. China does what? Through salami slicing, etc. It has been expanding. It has been cynicizing rest of the people. We do not need to cynicize. And that is the beauty of India. And that India, I am saying, will be able to contribute to security and stability of entire mankind. So I have mentioned that, what key areas of focus individual we are talking about, societal values we are talking about, regulatory capacity of state. State has to be impartial. If our judiciary takes 20 years, 30 years, or 50 years to decide something, rest assured we are on a downhill path. Our destruction cannot be prevented. If we have a hostile power like China, 6 times economically more powerful, something is wrong with us. A democracy is based on merit and competition and fair competition. Authoritarianism is based on patronage and loyalty. But what is true? Our democracy, has it been rigged? Has it been gamed? There's some industrialists we are talking about that they are rising on the basis of patronage. Not now, but every time. It's only a matter of degree. So we have to find an answer to these. And for this, our stakeholders have to come together. I'm talking about resilience of governance institution. I'm talking about culture of innovation and excellence. I'm talking about ability to throw up not one leader. Destiny of any great society or civilization has never depended on worshipping a leader. It has depended upon creating a galaxy of leaders in different sectors. One leader creates another leader, building a trust-based ambiance. The basic problem with Islamic radicalism and organized crime and corruption, which I perceive for me, are three. These destroy trust. Because when every individual thinks, fine, I will go and use deception, which was used by all Mamluk Mongol invaders, and they think, okay, we are rulers, we are in any case superior, and it is our right to con someone, butcher someone, loot someone's property. We are really good. That is, we are promoting, they are going to heaven. Where is society in this thing? Where is altruism in this? And people who try to place both communities together, I understand. Hinduism is a problem. People are talking about caste division. Corruption is a problem. Brokerism is a problem. Dishonesty is a problem. But they are not brutal. If they are brutal, then 1.5 crore Hindus and Sikhs wouldn't have been forced to migrate from Pakistan, and only 3 lakh Muslims who were real architects of Pakistan, only they went from here. I'm not saying ideally not a single Muslim should have been forced to go out of India, but only 3 to 4 lakhs they went. And most of them till date, they are called muhajirs. So what I'm trying to say, that this Islamic radicalism is a far more serious threat, but bigger threat than that is our tolerance to corruption. Our ability to ignore, okay, corruption and development go hand in hand. These are issues we have to keep in mind. I have said inbuilt capacity of institutions to prevent, preempt, and deter conflict and disease both. It's not that when we're talking about health, okay, you fall sick and you go to hospital, and hospital is working about its capex and financial model and how to make itself sustainable. So when you have a cough, they carry out your heart surgery, isn't it? Even after they put you on ventilation. Sorry, this is the contradiction of capitalism we are talking about. That a hospital, very expensive hospital with a lot of machines, it has come up, and that company has to be sustainable. Will it help society? No. They are bound to create diseases. They are pharmaceutical companies. They are under a lot of cloud. So capitalism's, this model is under threat. I am not a proponent of socialism, which created another worse kind of narcissism, where people like Mao, 4 crore Chinese were massacred by Mao. What Stalin did to Russians, isn't it? So not that model we are talking about that brought in stagnation, economic stagnation, that also prevented this thing. And this is why we are saying we have to find a new model. I will not discuss that economic model. Some other time I will discuss. But what I'm talking about, that this capacity to prevent, preempt, and deter conflict, it's not that this thing has come up. Before a conflict comes, your institutions have to be designed in such a manner you are able to prevent it. Some terror attack happens. Once an attack happens and people who are fighting, they are glorified. They are recognized. But large number of people who have not allowed these attacks to happen, they have deflected it much before it happened through innocuous means. There is no recognition. So ultimate, the foundation is, as I said, integrity in society, wisdom in society, not that who has so many at one point of time. People had n number of donkeys, they become emperors. So we should not create our population into, kind of cattle and resources. And those who can fool largest number of people should have the right to plunder society. And this is why I say today's India, we are more Mamluk, we are more Mongol, we are more Islamic than, even if our name is Hindu, at least statecraft is driven by more Mamluk, Mongol, and Islamic practices rather than Hindu or so-called Sanatan practices. I don't think, anyway, I will not avoid saying certain things. What I'm saying that I've also said wars are unavoidable. A strong state must not deplete all its all-round capacity by reckless wars. So war fighting has to be very smart. So now, how can we, 2, 3 slides I have, 2, 3 points rather I have, and I will conclude. No standalone change is possible. When we want to change, we have to change, bring about changes in society at one level, and also changes in state. Society, we need, genuine social reform movements like Buddha's, or like Sant Gyaneshwar, or like Mahavir. These are different era, or Tukaram, or one of the Vivekanand. We of course we talk about, but another cent. I'm sorry, I'm getting this thing, and due to some health issues and COVID, I think my memory has been failing me, and some Shankaracharyas. So what I'm saying that we need genuine integrity-driven scent rather than people who are carrying out business of sainthood or this thing. I don't want to name them. That even this area has been perverted. I will quote one thing, again from Kautilya, that in that era, that Brahmins were not by birth. Brahmins were by their deeds. And there was a difference between Gyan Kand and Karma Kand. Karma Kand is ritual. And even earlier scriptures, they mocked ritualism, that you go worship before a temple, etc. This idol worship in India is a 3rd, 4th century AD innovation. We were not. Our real thing is, relating with nature, yagyas, etc., where you communicate with divine entity. Upanishads, these talk about virtues, isn't it? So what I'm trying to say at this point of time, that we have been degenerating. This mind should not be closed. Mind has to be kept open. And if we become far too subservient, then naturally nothing happens. This Kautilyan thing I was quoting, I forgot, I lost track. In Kautilyan era, Brahmins or so-called knowledgeable people, wise people were respected. Sannyasis who had renounced the world, they were respected far more. But there was enormous close watch was kept on sannyasis. If a sannyasi indulged in crime, severest punishment was given. People talk about Manu Smriti, etc. Yes, these have been all our textbooks. Scriptures have been perverted by this ritualistic Brahmins and Brahmin class, you can say priestly class. But if a Brahmin indulged in theft, what was the punishment? Capital punishment. If a Shudra indulged in theft because of low education, punishment was what? Certain amount of fine. So as custodians of society, you were expected to observe highest level of integrity. So what I'm saying, in society, we need movements where people genuinely observe highest level of integrity, but our ecosystem is perverted. Similarly, when I talk about state, we need serious reform in political parties. Political parties should not be a kind of dynastically controlled armies. Those armies will be fighting. People will be irrelevant. There will be war between them. And bureaucracy has to be committed. Judiciary has to be committed. Then we are fighting an internal war. And we don't need an external enemy to decimate. I will tell you, one more anecdote I must tell, real life instance. There are few former British prime ministers, they are alive. And one gentleman I had met I had gone to meet a friend of mine. He's again alive. He's a very eminent architect at a building called Royal Institute of British Architecture, RIBA. And I met this gentleman there. And he said, in course of discussion, that look, politicians, they contest elections or they are in playing arena to win. No politician is there to contest election for the sake of election. He said it is judiciary, it is bureaucracy which reins us in. So autonomy and independence and yet accountability of bureaucracy and judiciary is critical for political parties to perform their work. So what I'm trying to say, there has to be reform in political parties. Political parties have to act as trusts, etc. We don't need an army of political parties. 2, 3 parties are good enough, isn't it? We need to think one tenure at the highest level is good enough. People who are working as ministers, they should be completely prevented from going for campaign, because by their campaign, their party is benefiting. But when their attention is diverted from governance to electioneering or party, governance suffers. And dynastic leadership of parties is a disaster. This is robbery of or burglary of democracy, you can say. So this is what I'm saying, that what are these details? I have spoken at public platforms. I have written also that we have to fix eligibility on who can contest election. That eligibility has to be there, and how to ensure that, the voting takes place not on the basis of identity, but on the basis of their governance, this thing. So this is one area. But as I said, no reform in one institution is possible without simultaneous reform. Bureaucracy. This is an 18th century model of bureaucracy. Today you are running Mela, tomorrow you are running civil administration, third day you are running garbage management, fourth day you are running something. We have created a small elite or small caucus. In bureaucracy, I had also built a leadership, indices, that how can we measure aptitude of people, they are suitable for what, recruited according to that. Someone is very good in history or Pali or statistics, but he's maybe very good, bad in administration. Someone can be a good performer, but not a leader. So I'm not focusing too much on these areas. These are entirely different world. But what I'm trying to see, we need a far more professional bureaucracy. If we have so much of wisdom, instead of borrowing A, B, or D, we need to create something. How can we see that we have the best possible people who are not in terms of skill also, but in terms of integrity also? If politicians want to bulldoze a bureaucrat, person should be able to stand up. And this is not possible by simply your school education and college education alone, or by qualifying one examination. So this is a whole system is driven by clerical needs. And then technology, somebody had mentioned once, I had forgotten. We need to create a larger ecosystem for technological innovation. If top-rated IIT graduates, they migrate to United States, or best doctors we export outside, or they join bureaucracy, or they join this thing, I'm sorry, something is wrong. We have not been able to provide that kind of rule of law or security for so-called high-skilled labor or so-called intellectuals. Well, initially, they are high-skilled laborers only. But once you graduate from a high-skilled labor, you started thinking in broader terms, you develop higher level of integrity. Only then you become a wise man, equivalent to, you can say, sage or whatever. So ultimately, a highly qualified person is a technical labor only, isn't it? Later on, he becomes innovator. Instead of just managing things on a day-to-day basis, create something different. So we need to create a good ambience, and rule of law is very critical. Security, very critical. Some degree of this thing, very critical. And this is why I'm saying we have to have, and it is possible today with advancement of technology, to measure someone's aptitude, decide someone's aptitude, decide someone's quality of effort, not output. Sometimes output is driven by a lot of external factors. But how high your quality of effort is, how good a performer you are, and how good a leader you are, and leadership has changed. So this is why I said that our bureaucracy, I've been part of that you jump at the highest level, paratroop, and then you manage the politician, you manage someone else, and good number of them, I hope it's not a violation of this thing. If there's a genuine investigation, you'll find people in first generation of bureaucracy. I'm not jealous of them. Some of them are my friends also. They have disguised investments in London Stock Exchange and New York Stock Exchange after 25, 30 layerings. But why them? Our private sector. People who are taking bank loans and they have defaulted bank loans. Banks have written off their loans. But this is not a secret information I'm telling. But every major procurement in their own company, a good amount of money goes to their offshore accounts. People who have defaulted bank loans, and I had evidences of their children later on given to me, where they are losing in gambling in one gambling resort, $10 million, $15 million. And in a country where, 40%, 50% children are having stunted growth. And sorry, our civilization is in a permanent decline. It doesn't have a chance. And people think, yes, this is perfectly all right because everybody has something to hide. I know that our objective should not be to send people in jail. Our objective has to, once I earlier also had said that, when teaching people on how to deal with hijackers of a flight, the negotiator feels that everybody should go home at least. Hijackers should not be allowed to hijack people or kill. We should not succumb to demands of a hijacker. We should, disarm hijacker, but make it sure hijacker goes home. So under these circumstances, those who are whatever scam accused and their children have become political lords, etc., we have to see something is done and we get rid of these hijackers, but so that, genuine rule of law can come, where people are not gambling in gambling resorts after misappropriating bank money, or people after defaulting on bank loans They are not transferring money in their offshore accounts. And officers who point it out, those officers, they are shunted, they commit suicide, something goes wrong, they are framed. And, because they are considered threat to the system. I know system stability should not be threatened, because if you bring a lot of change, suddenly there will be chaos and anarchy in streets, which we cannot have. And this is why I say that these things need to change. Civil society also, I mentioned, corporate sector, I have said, leadership. And we have to see, large companies cannot be controlled by one individuals. We have to consider, like United States, corporations you create, but within corporations you regulate further, because they are a very rich country. They have, huge resources, accumulated advantages, etc. So they can have these liberties. 10%, I told in the beginning, 10% of the human population they wiped out, and they captured the whole land. Few hundred years they had access to, uninterrupted access to slave labor from Africa. So once they did and they invested certain things, they built this institution, and that is also a difficulty. India will be committing, or has been committing, a huge disaster by following an American model.